In this video, we're going to go behind the scenes to the real secrets to running multiple seven-figure businesses. Hey everybody, my name is Titus Waters, and I run a handful of businesses in which we do multiple seven figures between them. One of them being my brick and mortar martial arts school, as well as Seven Figure Dojo, which helps school and academy owners through marketing and business strategies around the world. And in this episode of Behind the Scenes, the secrets to success, I'm going to share with you how I actually went through and found purpose in the middle of all of the things that I had to go through to build those companies, and perhaps how you can find that same exact purpose as well. It might surprise you. So stick around, and I believe you're going to absolutely enjoy this episode of Behind the Scenes. See you in a few. Here today, and we're going to be speaking as a panelist.
Right.
Couple.
Yes.
At Quest. So, how are you feeling part of it?
You know, I'm actually a little nervous, not a lot nervous, but a little, surprisingly, because I want to make sure that I say the right things, and I got something really cool just a second ago. So, actually, it has something to do with the message, and I felt like I was putting my hand for a reason. So, pretty neat.
Awesome. So stay tuned. We've got a lot of cool footage coming up, and I think that this is going to bless your life.
Y'all, it is so good to be with you. My name's John Kinney. I'm the senior pastor here at Quest Church. I want to welcome you. I've got some friends on stage. They're going to introduce themselves in just a moment. You guys are here for the conclusion of the series we've been in called Now What? We've been asking the question, if Jesus really came into this world, if Jesus really died on a cross for our sins and forgives us, if Jesus really was put in a tomb and then was raised on the third day like we celebrated on Easter just a few weeks ago, now what? What do we do? Because God has done all of that. So if you're here today and you're a Christian, the question is, now what? What do I do in light of what God has done? If you're not a Christian, you might be wondering, now what? Like, what kind of life am I supposed to live because of what God has done? So if you're in the house or you're watching from your own house or checking this out later online, we want to welcome you as we ask that question. We've been saying in this series things like God wants us to do something with what he's done. God has a good message, a great message, the best message that the world has ever heard. And we've been saying in this series that we are the plan. I don't know if you were here for that Sunday, but we said we're the plan. God doesn't have another plan. It's us, for our friends, our family, our coworkers, the people in this world. We're the plan. And if that's true, that means that each of us are a part of God's plan. And so today, what I wanted to do, this is the special part. We've been talking about something special. I wanted to invite some folks from our church. So that's these folks. These are folks that sit in the seats just like you do. And I invited them to be on stage with us for the services today because I wanted you to hear from other people about how they are living out the plan. Like in their real world, in their context, how are they living out the plan? So these folks all come from different walks of life, so you're going to hear from them about how God is using them to make an impact, to make a difference in their context. And y'all, there are so many different contexts in this room, or if you're checking us out online, listening, there's so many different ways that we're all living. And so I just think this is really great that we can sit here and have this discussion. So lean in, hear from this. I think something somebody says today is going to hit every single person here. So here's how I want to start. I want the panel to introduce themselves. All right, you'll see their names on screen, but I'm going to start over here with Lauren. Tell us who you are so that these folks can know you just a little bit.
Hey guys, my name is Lauren Clays. I am 23 years old, and I would say I'm a recent grad, but I graduated a year and a half ago from college, so it's not really that recent. And I went to Mississippi College. I got my degree in interior design, and now I am working at Curtain Call Fabrics and Interiors, and I absolutely love my job.
Awesome, thank you. She said she's recently graduated. Did y'all hear that? And she said that was a while ago. I'm like, I'm about to have a 30-year reunion, friends, for college. Love the young. That's awesome. All right, Lindsay.
Good morning. I'm Lindsay Ghost. I'm married to Jamie Ghost, and we have 3 little girls. They're 6, 3, and 1. I grew up in Kansas with my parents and my sister. I became a Christian when I was 24, just a few months before Jamie and I got married, and then we moved out to Atlanta. I started working as an ultrasound tech and then managed an imaging center in Atlanta, became the director of that imaging center, and then we moved out to the Augusta area, so I took a job as a clinical consultant for a medical software company. Did that for 2 years and then decided last October that I was going to quit my job and stay home with my babies.
Wow, awesome. All right, Gil.
Yes, good morning. My name is Gilberto Grenal, and I was born in Panama, Republic of Panama. You guys may have noticed as soon as I opened this guy is kind of different.
I noticed your haircut. I think you have a great haircut.
I'm cool, right? Just like that. Well, we moved from Panama to New York, and I joined the military and spent 24 years active duty in the Army. Upon retiring, I taught what is called accelerated reading intervention for a year and decided, no, ROTC is my thing. So I transferred to ROTC and taught that for over 15 years and retired again. I am married to Terry Grenal. Some of you may know her. She runs around here with a skate all over the place, running. And we have 4 beautiful children, a boy and 3 girls, 10 grandchildren. See, I knew I was going to get that reaction. And 1 great-grand on the way. For 39 years, Terry followed me around, abroad and here in different states. And she never once complained. Not one. Picked up, packed up, we're gone. And she said to me, hun. Says, hun,
important.
very important.
Yeah.
I would like to move to Augusta, Georgia, where she has, her mother used to live here and she passed now, and she has sisters, families, and friends. And I would like to move there. What do you think? I said, well, inside me, I said, man, I'm very happy right here in Texas. About 18, almost 20 years. I'm happy, content. However, she had followed me around for 39 years, not complaining once. And I say, it's about time I follow her now. And so, here we are.
Love that. Hey, can we pause for just a moment? Thank Gil for his service and all who serve our country. Thank you so much. Love that. All right, Titus.
Titus Waters, Westmont Elementary, born and raised. On the playgrounds where I spend most of my days. Now, that's a good introduction, but I'm here local, guys. I grew up here. My family grew up in this area. I'm a husband. My wife, Jennifer Waters, we run the business Seigler's Karate Center. We have a son, Beckett, and I'm the head sensei, so I teach most of the classes at Seigler's Karate Center on a day-to-day basis. So it's really cool. I'm honored to be here as we unpack the questions today and stuff, and I'm excited to be here today.
Well, I'm Jennifer. I'm Titus's wife. We've been married, I got this wrong on the first one, 16 or 17? 17 years. Long time. So, we adopted our son Beckett from China when he was 3.5. He's now 9. My family, my dad actually started Seigler's Karate Center back in 1982, but it was struggling. Like the business itself was struggling all throughout while I was growing up. And when I graduated high school, there were 2 choices ahead of me. Go to college like my grandparents wanted me to do, because they were going to pay for all of it, or run a business that was failing. And so I chose the logical conclusion, which was to run the business that was failing. And I made it my life's mission. I was very interested in business from a kid, and so I spent the next 4.5, 5 years implementing things that I learned, and we took the business from making a few $1,000s to making over $1 million a year in about 4.5, 5 years. Many of you guys out here, I'm seeing familiar faces. I taught your classes when you were little kids, and now you're grown-up kids, so that's fun. And now I also have another business as well that's also does seven figures. We coach martial arts schools around the world, and so we work with the United States, Canada, UK, Australia, and help them be able to transform their martial arts schools, just like what I did as well.
Friends, yeah, come on. So here's the thing I wanted us to hear from that. I wanted you to get to know these folks a little bit. But we all have a story. And every single story is unique and different. I love that. But what we believe and what we've been saying in this series is that God wants to use all of us, no matter who we are and where we are, to make an impact in the world. One of the ways we do that is we try to discover our sweet spot. So last week, Pastor Unique taught a message. I hope you were here for it. If not, you can check it out online, where he said, hey, if you take your past experiences, if you take your gifts, natural and even spiritual gifts that you have, talents and things like that, and you take your mindset, kind of a spiritual mindset, and you see the overlap, that's kind of called the sweet spot in your life, and God can use that. So I want to ask these guys on stage what their sweet spot is. So what is your sweet spot, Lauren? Let's start on this side. Actually, I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to start on this side because I started there last time. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
So
Let's do it.
We'll start over here, and Lauren, you have more time to think about it. But Jennifer, what's your sweet spot? How is God using it to make an impact in your world, in your context?
Well, the sweet spot I feel for me is building business, running business, building leaders, creating environments that people can encounter God and they can encounter what He would have for their lives. I don't think you have to be a Christian business. I think you have to be a business that loves Christ. And so, or you own a business that loves Christ. And so I'm fortunate to co-own one with my family and then have the other. And so with these two businesses, I've been able to pray with people around the world because they're in hard situations. Like literally, one of my team members is in Colombia, not South Carolina, the country, South America. And she's there, and I've prayed with her. I have Muslims working for me. I have atheists. I have agnostics. I have straight. I have gay. I have people that I would have never been able to reach before abroad and also here at home in this community. And so I believe my sweet spot is in business. And anytime I've tried to get out of that, whether it was I'm going to do something great for God and I want to go do this mission or this thing or whatever, because I think that that's what I'm supposed to be doing, because that's what Christians are supposed to do. Anytime I go do those things, chaos erupts in my life. With our relationship, with finances, the business, all those other things. And when I was 14 years old, the business was struggling so bad. I actually didn't say this in the first service, but the business was struggling so bad when I was 14, and my family was struggling. Like, my dad was able to keep a job and keep the roof over our heads, and I always had food on my plate, but there were times where I just wasn't able to go and do things my friends were able to do because we didn't have money. And so I remember praying and just pouring my heart out and just saying, God, please, God, just give us so many students that we don't know what to do with them. And I could have never imagined where I am now. I mean, literally, because of what I do, I've touched thousands and thousands of people's lives.
You know what I love, Jennifer, about what you're saying is, as I talk to you and as I've gotten to know you, kind of got to know you through people who would come to this church because they are in the business, right? People have been baptized in this church who have come from your school, right? And they get connected to this church or whatever, or other churches. You don't separate faith and business. And I think in a world where we're like, you should kind of separate everything from, can you just say a word about that? How do you keep those connected?
Well, I think it's, number one, you have to make sure that you know whose you are. And whatever you do every day to give you that cue. I have a necklace that one of my friends gave me a couple of years back when I was going through some really hard things, and it's a cross and it says warrior on it. And every day I put that necklace on and I say, this is so that others know who I belong to, whose I am. And whether you have something that's like that or just a mental cue, I think you need to walk into every day going, I'm a representative, I'm an ambassador of Christ. And I think the other thing is that when you see that need, just reach out. There's been people that I've seen that are struggling, that I've just said, hey, can I pray for you right now? Is that okay? And if someone's like, I've actually never had anybody say, no, you're not praying for me. Like, I've never had that. Maybe it'll happen one day. But I have been able to do that. I have been able to invite people. I have been able to speak life. And that's so much power when there's so many people speaking negativity. And no matter who I'm interacting with, my life is evidence. The words that I speak, the way that I conduct my business are evidence that I belong to someone and that this business belongs to someone, not just me.
Wow, that's good. Titus, how about you? What's your sweet spot of God making an impact through it?
Well, I think my sweet spot has always been encouragement or being an encourager. And the thing about it is, we're better together. There's holes in my game that I have that she completes. There's holes in her game that I complete and out with. And that's the thing. So she used to be teaching all the classes at SKC, and that was what she did. But I'm the head sensei now. Sounds good, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay. All right. So I teach a lot.
You teach the classes I go.
I teach the classes. Yeah. I go out to PE teacher for a day. I do school talks. Probably some of y'all have met. Your kids have come home and like, I met the guy. It was even at Kroger where somebody was like, that's the guy that does Kung Fu. And it was so random. I look over, I'm like, yeah, it is him. So it's interesting. I get to carry the good news wherever I go. And that's the thing. So, you know, whether it's a smile or something along those lines, and how I started and got to it was, you know, through a process of invitations. But I get to invite people into something more, and the environment we have at SKC really helps facilitate that. You can definitely, people usually say, and I know you've said it yourself, because I'm your sensei. You said there's an atmosphere here that's really great.
Yes.
And I think that's an atmosphere that, you know, I think the Holy Spirit helps out with too. And that's the thing that's really cool. It's something that you can't quantify, but I always tell people it's a great environment. It's why I've been here for 20 years.
I love something you just said that I didn't recognize, and we've been talking about it, but you talked about invitations. And one time a mentor said to me about preaching and teaching and stuff, like, he said, man, take every invitation you can. Even if you're like, I don't want to, because God can use that. And I just love that you're invited into things. And that's, you know, I'm online and I see, I'm like, man, a PE teacher for a day. Again, it's not a day, it's like a year. It seems like you keep doing that and you get invited into those environments. So I don't know, encourage y'all when you're trying to make an impact, like if you're invited into something, it can be scary. You step out and you do it, right? Step out of your comfort zone. I love that. That's good. How about you, Gil? Like, what's your sweet spot, brother?
Well, do we have time for this? It might be a while.
Yeah, we do. Are you going to preach?
No.
Okay.
Well, Terry and I have been in ministry since 1991. And in that capacity, we have pastor, counseling, coach, mentorship, kind of you name it. And we find it, or I call it, I'm in my zone when I'm doing these things. Today I operate in a kind of a different way. I'm not in the pulpit, as you guys may know, but pulpit ministry is not all there is. And so I find it very fulfilling when I can speak with someone, when I can encourage someone, when I could counsel with someone. That is my zone. I didn't say this in the first service, but I will. Somebody may need to hear this. When we were in ministry many years ago, under my eyes or my leadership, I had a close friend that got a divorce from his wife. And he was there with me, not every day, he was there with me a good amount of time. And I did not see a sign, none whatsoever, if there was a struggle happening in that marriage. I missed it totally. And the Lord allowed me, I says, this will not happen again. So I tell you this to say, I went back to school and studied. And I studied Christian clinical counseling. And God have helped me to sometime catch on to these things when they're happening, not thereafter.
Yeah.
And so today, I use those past experiences and been in the pulpit to be able to help me help somebody. And in doing so, I could bless their life. And it blessed my life because I find fulfillment in helping someone achieve their goal.
Friends, I want to mention, if there's any men in the room, I just feel this about Gil and what he just said. And he's been this for me. As these guys, we've obviously prepped for this, as they were talking about their sweet spots, and we were sharing about it even a week ago with each other. I'm like, man, he does that for me. Everything that everybody's saying, I'm like, yeah, I sense that when I get in relationships. So maybe there's a guy out there who needs somebody to kind of coach them, consult, disciple. I mean, I'm putting that on you right now, brother, but it's like,
yes, sir.
I mean, that's what you're saying. Your sweet spot is to help people in those roles and not miss it, right? So if there's some guys out there that need some help with that, you need to come talk to Gil, man. He's such a great coach and mentor and leader. He's got a lot of experience. But in the first service, he said, "You're saying I'm old." I'm like, no, you just have a lot of experience, right? And I love that about you. How about you, Lindsay? What's your sweet spot?
So growing up, my family, we weren't Christians, and my parents were awesome people. They taught us to have really good morals, but we never walked with Jesus. So I think that, my sweet spot really stems from that past experience after becoming a Christian and just knowing how different life is when you do walk with Jesus and how different the struggles are. I really want that for my kids. So I want to be, an example of what God's love looks like for my kids. And I want to be the constant for them in all of the chaos. And so a big pull for me to stop working was that I was traveling a lot for my job, and I just couldn't see a life where I could provide a life for them, where they felt the way I want them to feel, and I wasn't there every night. So that's really my sweet spot within my family. But then also on the marriage side of things too, growing up, my dad he was a functioning alcoholic, he had bipolar disorder, and he was addicted to drugs. And so it just created so much chaos in our life. My parents had such good intentions for raising my sister and I, and they were just faced with so many challenges individually within their marriage. And so luckily for me, my marriage has been quite the opposite of that. It's been a place where I could heal and where I could grow and become closer to Jesus. So that's what I want to be an example for my kids, my marriage with Jamie, and then also to other people that are struggling, just to know that when you have Christ in the center of your marriage, things can be so much different.
I think one of the things about your story in this season that you're in, interesting, right? Like, you were in corporate world business, doing very well, very successful, and you decided that for now, at least this season, your sweet spot is being a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home parent. Now, there's stay-at-home dads too, but can you just say a word of encouragement to how about, let's just say stay-at-home, I'm sorry, not stay-at-home. I want to encourage them too, but what about the mom who is working and has the kids at home and isn't feeling that calling that you felt? I mean, how would you encourage them? You were doing that too.
Sure. I would just say to lean into your prayer life. I remember Sarah McDonald asked me one time, she said, "What does your prayer life look like?" And I said, "It's great. I talk to God all the time." And she said, "But do you listen to him?" I was like, "Oh, no, I don't think I do." So I would just encourage you to lean into your prayer life, but then also to listen to what he's saying. And he's probably not telling you to quit your job and be a stay-at-home parent, or maybe he is. But I think he'll give you the discernment to really figure out what changes you need to make in your life to be on the path that he wants you to be on.
Thank you for sharing that. Lauren, what's your sweet spot?
So I think my sweet spot, so far from what I found, is helping people in my day-to-day. I'm an interior designer. I work at a retail store. And we have our regular, recurring customers that we have, but we also have just random people who walk in off the street looking for probably only one thing. And I get to help them pick out a pretty little fabric to make a pillow or recover a sofa. Or I get to help these recurring customers do complete rooms, which I think is so fun. And just like what I feel when I help them, knowing that I made someone happy, knowing that they are happy with the decision that they've made, that I'm happy that I got to help them make a decision, one that they are going to live with for a while because you know it. But I don't know, I love that about my day-to-day. I'm also the 12th grade girls small group leader, one of them here at Students, and I love that I get to walk with some of the best seniors. They're really fun. I mean, all the high schoolers really. We all just hang out on Sunday afternoons, and just being able to be there with them and helping them get through tough times, or they had a bad week, or they need prayers for a big test that they have, and now they're about to graduate and go off to college, so being there praying for them as they move into this new phase of life has been so good. And I remember when I was a senior in high school and I was in Students and I was going off to college, and how my youth leaders impacted me, and I'm just so grateful that I get to be that for them.
I love that. Y'all, we all have a sweet spot, a place that God wants to use. You've just heard so many different examples of that. Let's move into this question, and Lauren will come back to you on this and come this way this time. But how did you discover what the part you play, or God's purpose for your life? I mean, that's quite a question, right? And how did you discover that, or are you discovering it? What's that look like for you? I'm
definitely not 100% sure that this is. It could evolve. It could stay like this. I don't know. I am only 23. I don't know. As I said in the last service,
I love that honesty. That's awesome. People need to hear that. They do.
I've only experienced this much of life when there's so many other people that have experienced this much life. So I do know that I have hopefully a lot more to live. I don't know. I'm just taking it day by day, seeing where things go, seeing where God takes me.
That's awesome. Thank you. So young folks or older folks like us, right, with the experience that she talked about, like, continue to search and discover what God's doing and where he might be working. I think trying things is great. How about you, Lindsay?
So I just knew that what I was doing was not it. I had really bad anxiety. I had intrusive thoughts. I just had this spirit of hurry and chaos all the time. My identity was really wrapped up in how much I could do and how well I could do it. And I knew that that's not what God wanted for me. He certainly doesn't want that for my kids. And that's, I want to be the example to my girl to live a good life. And I wasn't doing that. So about 6 months ago, I decided that his plan was definitely better than mine, and I quit my job, and over the last 6 months it's just been a totally different life, one where I don't struggle with daily anxiety or intrusive thoughts, and when I do, I have the time and space to be able to be in prayer and get into scripture and to talk with other believers, and I didn't do that before because I was too busy. And so I really just think that from knowing how I did not want to live my life, I trusted in his plan, and it's been so much better. I have time to spend with my kids now to be able to show them what, God's love looks like. And I will say that it's not this blissful state all the time. I'm a doer and an achiever, and I'm efficient, and that none of those words go along with staying at home with your kids. So it's really pushed me into a closer relationship with God, and I would have never experienced the growth that I have if I did not follow his plan.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Gil, how are you discovering God's purpose for your life, part you play?
Well, sir, young kids, listen up, young students. When I was an early age, maybe like you all sitting here, I believe probably in the 12th grade, my teacher gave me an assignment. He gave me a sheet of paper and a speech, and he said, learn that you're going to be speaking to the class. And I did that. I spoke to the class, and thereafter I went to other classes and speak. And I was selected to speak on the 3rd of November in a public park. 3rd of November in Panama is Panama Independence from Colombia. So people gather at the park, there's marching, all that good stuff. And so I was able to speak there, and then that was about the end of it. I didn't think much of it, but it was in the back of my mind for many years. I left and I said, went to New York, joined the military, and I ended up in a place called Bamberg, Germany. While in Bamberg, attending a service, the preacher preached his message, and after the service, he said, young man, trust me, I didn't have this hair then, and I had some hair on my head. He said, young man, you have been called into the ministry. And my response to myself was, yeah, right, basically. But it kept on pondering it in my head. It kept on, there was a burning inside of me. About 4 months later or so, the associate pastor told me, Brother Grinnell, you have a calling in your life. And I said, same thing, okay, yeah, right. So I had a permanent change of station after, and I went to Oklahoma. And Oklahoma attending service, I usually went in early. I went to help out with whatever I could, help the pastor, help this. And as I walked in the door, pastor's office was facing the entrance. And as I walked in, he says, Gil, I need to speak with you. And he threw me off guard. And so I went in his office and he closed it and he says, listen, the Lord spoke to me concerning you. You have a calling in your life into ministry, and you have not done anything about it. No, I didn't tell him anything. He knew it. And yes, I began to talk, I wept, and he said, well, you know what? We need to get busy. And so my preparation began there, and that's when I actually accepted the calling, and I knew the purpose God had for me in life.
I love one of the things you're mentioning. I just want to raise this up. Sometimes there's this inner thing you feel, right? Maybe some of y'all are feeling that. It's like, hey, what is that? Like, other times there's affirmation or confirmation, even unsolicited. So I think both are important. Listen to that. All of us, but especially, next generations, listen to that. You want to know, what does God want to do in my life? Things like that. Go inside and ask yourself, like, God, what do you want me to do? Like, what's your plan and purpose for me? And then also listen for other people on the outside saying, hey, I see this or I see that. Both are important. Just because somebody tells you should do something isn't accurate. And just because you feel it maybe isn't accurate. I think the inside and the outside are both important. I love how your story kind of shares that. Titus, how about you?
Well, how I discovered my part was I really didn't know for a lot of time. You kind of make this big thing where you're like, what's the one thing that God wants me to do? And I think that's a weird question to ask anyway. It's not just one thing.
Right.
But the thing about it, I was raised in church. My mom led me to Christ when I was young. When I was probably 3 or 4, I remember praying, and she raised me that way. My dad did too. And so the reason I have the name Titus is because she won that argument. Okay, so it would have been Jedediah otherwise. So it was Jedediah or is Titus. So I'm like, I wouldn't be called Jed for short. It's been interesting. We thought about a whole alternative history here with me. Okay, all right. So as far as me learning, I didn't really always know. I knew okay, what am I supposed to do? And I went through college. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to college. It's the next logical thing. Well, something happened in college. I went to Augusta State, and I was invited by somebody to karate. And I was like, I've always wanted to do karate. I'd actually been thinking about researching it, and I actually said that my senior year, I want to do karate. Well, that got me to SKC. So, and then I met my wife there. So it was really cool because of that invitation. I met her, and I remember the first time I walked in and looking around and going, whoa, this is cool. Oh, she's really awesome. So, and then that kind of grew there over the next couple of years. And then that led me to the next step to where there was a part where, we were dating and then we weren't dating. And I was in college, I was 2 years in, and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I have no clue. And I think God was working on me, and he really was
working on like I think a prideful heart of thinking like I wanted to do it my way. Like this was my vision of what my future looked like, but he had a different plan. So I got to the point where I was walking on the Greenway in North Augusta, and I had to kind of lay that down. And I said, you know what? Whatever you want my life to look like, Lord, I want that. You know, that includes Jennifer, that doesn't include Jennifer, that includes karate, that whatever that looks like, I'm giving it to you. And after that, she started talking to me again. It was really amazing. And this is back in AOL Instant Messenger days, so that's how we were talking. You know, it was like, okay, AOL Instant Messenger, let's log on. All right, so, and we got married. I've been involved with the business. And then throughout life too, you know, like the pursuit of having a family. I actually wasn't interested in having kids at first. You know, like we got married young, and I was like, no, I'm not good with kids. And that's what's funny is those that know me, I teach kids, and that's the number one compliment I get is, you're so good with kids. Oh my gosh. But it's funny, it's a belief I had about myself, a label that I put on myself, and God had a different plan.
Yeah.
So one of the things I started to pray was, hey, Lord, give me a desire to have kids, you know, and to have a family. And he answered that prayer, and over many years, we got to the adoption process. It was about 3 years in, I got to a low point where it was another one of those moments where I remember I was holding a piggy bank, and I was sitting down in the room where there was supposed to be a kid, and there was money in the bank that I had put away for my child. And I took that money out and I put it in my wallet, and I went, I give up. This isn't happening. But God was still faithful even in that, because not known to me, Beckett was already born on the other side of the world and things along those lines, and he led us to him. There's so much providence there that came through it. And you know, that gifting, I believe, of working with kids, I think I see it. And I saw it the other week. I was doing PE teacher for a day, and one of the kids came up to me, and she gave me a hug, and she said, I wish you were my dad. And it was one of those moments I went, whoa, that's powerful. It kind of took me out for a moment. And I went, well, you're seeing something, is what I was thinking. You're seeing something in me that I'm supposed to point you to, which is that we all have a father, and we need to search for him. But he's there. So like I get to be that for people sometimes. And that's one of the things that really has opened up my eyes to what I'm supposed to be doing. It's like there's a lot of people that need that. So that's what I get to do. And that's what I'm grateful to be able to do.
Your story says it's a journey. I love that.
Right.
So, Jennifer, close us out with, how did you discover?
Well, I don't know if it's just because I'm an only child or I'm a redhead, but I'm really stubborn. And when people say, you can't do that, I'll be like, watch me. I'm going to do it. And so I think that for me, the question of what am I going to do with my life and how is that tie into God's plan, like it always frustrated me, especially as a teenager at, you know, your age and stuff like that. And because I didn't know. So I didn't do what you did, which was listen. And so I went and tried to do a lot of other things outside of that circle. And it took me hitting my face against brick walls to go, nope, that's not the direction. Nope, that's not the direction. So I think the last couple of years, like the last 2-3 years, probably the last 3, I have gone, okay, this is what you've called me to do, to run businesses. And that is enough. And I think a lot of people struggle with, am I doing enough? Am I supposed to be doing that? And if you keep encountering struggle and difficult, and I'm not saying life is not easy, but if you keep encountering that, maybe it's that you're not listening and your face is getting hit on that brick wall, and you need to go back to what it is that God has called you to do. And so for me, it's been listening to doing something that Christians aren't supposed to normally do, which is be business owners and have a business for Christ. And I think that is my calling.
Love that. Friends, listen, I hope that from this conversation and this discussion, you've heard something that hits you. And I'm going to close us out. These guys are going to go off stage, but can we just thank God for them and them sharing today? Thank you guys so much. I sure appreciate you. I'm going to let them exit for just a moment.
If you like this video and you want to dive more into how to become a successful business owner, make sure you click here.